I know this isn't like the normal content that I would put out, and I don't even know what value it brings you. But if you want to know how I became a writer, that's the story. Real quick, if you don't know me yet, my name is Tom Scalisi, and I'm a professional writer. I've written thousands of articles, web pages, website copy, emails, you name it. So I know how the online writing world works, and I'm going a little off the cuff with this video, and I just wanted to kind of share some background. All right, so my other content's not going to be like this. My other content will be tips and advice on how to become a writer and how to be a better writer or blogger and all that. So don't judge a book by just this video. Don't judge a book by video, but go ahead and give it a listen. I think it'll probably help you understand how to become a writer, or at least stop you from letting not knowing how to become a writer stop you. All right, let's get into it. So I was at a basketball tryout the other day, and the gym that this basketball tryout was in was upstairs in this old building in the city. And, we were walking up the stairs, and we got caught behind this dad and his two kids. And the dad was dressed like, he was wearing like nice like business clothes, but you could tell the clothes were a couple years old. So, and his shoes looked like they needed a little bit of love. So you could tell like he wasn't exactly like killing it wherever he was, wherever he's working, but he was definitely an office guy. So we're walking behind these guys, and the one kid's on crutches, and we're going up these flights of stairs. It's an old building, so they're pretty steep, and kind of a son of a bitch to try to get up. So the kid's on crutches, and he's working his way up the steps one at a time, and we're following behind him. We're not putting any pressure on him because I hate when people do that to me. So I don't want to do that to a kid on crutches. So he ends up, working his way up the stairs, but he's getting more and more tired with every step. Every step he's putting the crutch up on there and then hopping up with his good leg and catching himself and then putting his crutches up again. And you could tell that the dad just wanted to go faster. So at some point, the kid puts his crutch up, jumps up onto the next step, and because he's been landing on this one leg for probably 20 or 30 steps at this point, his leg is tired and it kind of gives out. And the kid like falls down, catches himself a little bit with his crutches, but like his knee lands on the step. And that was a little concerning to see, but the kid caught himself pretty well and he seemed to be okay. And his dad barks at him, "Let's go." As if the kid like needs to like jump up and get up the stairs faster and get moving. Like he's not on crutches. Like the kid's wasting his dad's time. So we all go up the stairs and it's fine. We make our way to the gym, and this gym is small and doesn't have any bleachers in it. So at this tryout, they just had benches for like all the parents to sit on around the perimeter of the gym, and all the kids that were trying out were in the middle. The only spot to sit was over in the corner. There was one bench that was open where we could sit. So myself and, a few steps behind this other family, this dad and his two boys, we all head over to this one bench in the corner. So I don't really have any warm and fuzzies for this guy at this point. Like he's kind of I kind of think he's a jerk at this point. He's yelling at his kid on crutches, and he doesn't seem to be conducting himself in like a manner of somebody that I would want to hang around with. So I'm not really feeling it. So I see him there, and he's like kind of in the corner of my eye, and I'm just kind of observing him. And he sits down, and he kind of like hangs his head for a little while, and he's like slouching, and he just doesn't look good. And then at another point, he leans forward, he puts his elbows on his knees, and he hangs his head in his hands. And at this point, I started to realize, like, hey, this guy's going through something. He's got something going on. I started to pity him rather than like dislike him. Obviously, whatever is going on is wearing on him. So I started to think about like all the stuff that it could be. I should be watching my kid try out for basketball, but instead I'm watching this guy, and he doesn't look good. So I started thinking about like what his day was like. It was probably like the day from hell. Maybe he got yelled at the office. Maybe he lost his job. Maybe he does own his own business and it's not going well. It could be any number of things. So I go from disliking this guy to actually feeling pretty bad for him. So as the tryout moves on, I'm still kind of observing because I am interested. And he starts to kind of like perk up a little bit. He starts to warm up. He sits up straight. He's now like talking to the kid on crutches and like smiling and laughing, and just definitely decided he was going to pick himself up by his bootstraps and figure this out, right? So I go from disliking him to pitying him to then sort of identifying with him. Obviously, whatever he was going through was weighing heavily on him. He decided that whatever it was holding him back from enjoying his kid's tryout or the presence of his other son. And at that point, he decided enough's enough. I'm gonna turn this around. I'm gonna feel better about whatever's bothering me right now, and I'm gonna enjoy this, and I'm gonna spend some time with my kid. And when that happened, I identified with him because I've been in a very similar situation, and at the same time, like I was proud of him. And I'll explain why, because like that story is pretty relative for me. I know this isn't my normal content. I know this is just completely off the wall here, but I want to tell a couple stories, and it'll make sense to you. So I haven't had a lot of videos get a lot of success yet, but I have had some people reach out to me on a couple of the platforms, Instagram, and those. I think I'm on Twitter. I tried Threads for a little bit, but that kind of sucks. So I've had some people reach out to me, and they ask me, it's mostly guys, they ask me like, hey man, how did you start writing? How did you become a writer? And most people think my job's pretty cool, and it is. It's genuinely cool. But people also think that there's some sort of like unsurpassable barrier that I got past that they can't. And I became a writer, and they can't do it, and I'm just cream of the crop. And that's not really the case. And I want to kind of explain how I became a writer so you can really see where I've come from, what skill set I leaned on, and maybe inspire you to do the same if that's what you really want to do. So here we go. So I was a contractor and a building mechanic for years. That was what I did. I enjoyed it. But at some point when my wife and I were having our first child, actually our second child, I wanted a career change. So I decided to become a cop. And it was something I always wanted to do. And I have this knack for challenging myself or, making things difficult on myself. And it seemed like it was the time in my life where I wanted to start a new challenge. So I applied for some jobs. I'm a good test taker, passed all my civil service exams, and the department in the city that I lived in was hiring. So I ended up getting hired, and I went through the academy. I did well in the academy. I was put in charge of some recruits. I got some awards. It was just a regular, it was just kind of like an academy situation. And then I got out on the road, and while I was on probation, like I hit the ground running. In my first 90 days of probation, I saw a lot of stuff. Like I saw what it looks like when a man gets hit by a train and is dragged for miles. I had my gun drawn several times on probation. I saw overdoses. I was in some foot chases. And this was all within like my first 90 days. It was a busy city department, so there wasn't like a lack of calls. And as I was spending my time on the road, I eventually got out on my own. I was off probation and I was doing my own thing. I started to develop like a knack for police work. You kind of find your niche or niche in police work, and I found mine, and mine was the mental health calls. I would go to mental health calls all day long. I enjoyed them. I enjoyed helping people on those calls. And as it would turn out, most cops didn't like those calls, so I wasn't like fighting anybody to get them. I was usually the first one there. Somebody would back me up at some point, and I would be dealing with somebody going through some sort of crisis. And I was pretty good at it. I would get there. I would communicate. I would talk to them. I would empathize with them, kind of understand where they're coming from, and at that point, start communicating with them and hopefully help them find a solution. Sometimes that solution was like remembering to take their medication, and then other times that solution was going to the hospital in handcuffs. And that was kind of my thing. I was pretty good at that. So after like a year or so, the police department starts to realize I'm pretty good at these calls. I'm pretty good at communicating with people, and I'm pretty good with identifying whatever somebody's going through and helping them get through it. So they ended up sending me to FBI negotiator school, and that was awesome. Me and a couple other cops, we went to FBI negotiator school, and we sat through, some training and things like that. And when I got out of that school, I was put on my department's crisis negotiation team, which was like the coolest thing in the world to me, because that's really what I really wanted to do, especially once I started to understand how to work these mental health calls and could see the impact that I could make, because I wasn't like the DWI guy. I wasn't going out there busting DWIs. I wasn't like a big drug guy. I wasn't like a street undercover detective or anything like that. I just genuinely wanted to help people. So I did that. I got on the crisis negotiation squad, and that was kind of my thing. So a couple of years passed, and I was doing all these calls, and I wasn't only going to mental health calls. I was going to the fights and the stabbings and the murders and the thefts and the home invasions and the suicides, the overdoses, all this stuff. And I started to notice that the job was getting to me. It was getting harder for me to recover from hard calls, and I was not myself. I wasn't feeling good physically. I actually had some health stuff come up. I also wasn't doing as well mentally, and kind of not showing up the way I wanted to in my life, and I wasn't happy. And then at the same time, that particular year, we had gone on a bunch of vacations. I think it was like 3 or 4 vacations, and that's not typical for us. It's maybe once a year for us now, but that year we went on a lot, and we had rung up some credit card bills, and I wanted to figure out a way to pay it off. So when that happened, I'm already miserable at work, and I'm trying to figure out how to make more money. I did not want to spend more time at the police department, because I knew that every minute that I spent there, I was getting unhealthier regardless of how much I was getting paid. So overtime at the police department wasn't for me. So I decided that I was going to use the skill that I had, and it was either I was going to go back to contracting and spending more time away from home, or I was going to try to write. And I decided that writing was the way I was going to go, and I had no idea what I was doing. I started to apply for jobs there were job postings in the niches that I enjoyed. So back then I was trying to get I really like watches. So I was trying to write about watches. A big dog guy. I tried to write about dogs, cars, tools, just basic men's interest stuff, right? But I didn't have any writing experience to even mention on these job applications. I loved to write. I was good at it, but I had a teacher tell me that I was never going to make money as a journalist. So I gave up on that in school. I gave up on that dream. Well, I didn't have anything to write as far as my experience. So I would write that I had experience writing police reports, and that every single one of these applications I would write that I was a certified FBI negotiator. And that was kind of the feather in my cap, and what made me kind of stand out from other writers. Now, the thing is that I was applying to entry-level jobs, so it's not like I really needed a lot to stand. I just needed something, and I knew that my experience as a negotiator would help me stand out and kind of prove that I could communicate. And that's really what writing is. It's just written communication. So that was what I leaned on. I leaned on my cool FBI negotiator, crisis negotiation unit, skill set, right? And after a month, it didn't take a long time, I ended up getting hired by a car magazine. So I love this. This was awesome, because this is what my teacher told me I could never do. And I wanted to be a car journalist, and here I am, right? So I figure I'm going to be the next Jeremy friggin' Clarkson. And that and I mentioned this in another video, I figured that I was going to start going to car premieres and racetracks and driving sports cars and writing about my experiences. And that's not what happened. I started to get these articles. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I'm telling you right now, I didn't know what I was doing. But but I started to get these articles where I was doing something called affiliate marketing. I didn't know what it was, but I was writing articles so the magazine would make money based on my words. I would, suggest products to readers. And then I was using a technique called SEO. And when they asked me if I knew what SEO was, of course, yeah, absolutely. I had no idea what SEO was. Not a friggin' clue. So here I am. I'm writing affiliate marketing posts. I'm not driving Porsches around racetracks, and I am learning SEO as I go. And at the same time, this is during the day. At the same time, I'm working midnights at the police department, sleeping during the day a little bit, and then getting up and writing these articles. So I continued with this route because it was fun. I liked it. I liked writing. I liked sharing the knowledge that I have. It was a lot about the affiliate marketing posts were like a lot about tools and car gear. So I had a lot of experience with that stuff, and it was exciting for me. So I was doing it as much as I could. I was getting as many articles as I could get from this company, and I would just write. And eventually it got to the point where I was starting to hear back from some of those other job applications that I put in, and I started to add more clients. And all of these clients were freelance. So I started writing more regularly, more often during the day, and working at the police department at night. But the police department, the situation was getting worse for me. I was tired because I was working really hard, and also I was starting to become really, I was physically ill and mentally wasn't doing so great. And then at the same time, I was starting to get really jaded and really lazy. And I was pretty active when I first became a cop, and then as the years go by, like all cops, you slow down a little bit, but I started to really slow down. And it got to the point where there was a call that we received. It was on midnights, and what it sounded like over the radio was it was going to be a heart attack, right? And that was like the call that I would typically flip the lights on and really get there. Like I was going to get there quick, because if somebody needed CPR, if it was, I don't know, whatever the situation was going to be, I was prepared to do it. And I'd done it quite a few times before. And in this particular call, I didn't flip my lights on, and I didn't bust ass out of the parking lot that I was in, and I let the ambulance beat me to the call. And at that point, I got through that call, knowing what I did. I got through that call, and then I pulled back in the parking lot afterwards, and I filled out the report. And I've said to myself, that's not good. That's not good. You've never done that before. You've never let somebody beat you there. You've never not responded to an emergency like you should have. This isn't pretty at this point. So I knew something. There was a lot of self-reflection after that call. And then when I was in bed, I think it might have been a day or two later. And I always shared things with my wife. I never wanted to burden her with the stuff that I was dealing with, but I always shared a lot of that stuff. And I was laying in bed sleeping, and my wife, I think, was out shopping or something, and she came home and she sat down in the bed next to me, and she knew what I was going through. She knew that she had known about this call, and she had known about all of the bullshit that I was dealing with. And she said to me, you're making more money writing than you are at the police department at this point. And she was right. I had paid off the debts. I was doing pretty well, and I enjoyed what I was doing. And I had more clients every day. At this point, I was freelance, but I was also the lead editor of a men's interest site. So, things were pretty good. And she sat next to me and she goes, look, if you're ready to go, I'm ready for you to go. She didn't like seeing me that way. And, she knew something was up, and she knew how unhealthy it was. And I was gone 2 weeks later. I filled out my 2 weeks notice. It was probably the best written 2 weeks notice, because I was super high on myself at that point. And I wrote just a killer 2 weeks notice, and I handed it in, and everybody thought I was nuts. They asked me if I was sure, if I needed help, if I was going through anything. And the truth of the matter was, I was never so sure about anything. I handed that 2 weeks notice in, and 2 weeks went by. I never looked back. I still talk to some of the guys and girls that I worked with, but I don't miss a second of that life. And I don't know where I'd be had I not taken the steps to build my writing business at that point, because I honestly think that I would either be dead or really, really sick. And things turned around for me after that. I landed some clients and work with some people that I never would have worked for in the police department or worked with in the police department, just different personalities, learn new skill sets, the flexibility of working from home. It absolutely changed my life, like almost instantly. And the reason I'm sharing that is because two things. It's one, like, I didn't let not having writing experience stop me from becoming a writer. I knew that's what I wanted to do, so I just did it. And when I have people ask me, like, how'd you become a writer? Like, literally the answer is just write. Just become a writer. Just do whatever you have to do to get somebody to exchange money for you to write, and write. Even in the beginning, like, when I first started writing those affiliate and SEO posts, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I was already a writer. And then I was looking at YouTube channels like this one to figure out how to become a writer. I didn't do this ahead of time. I had no clue. I just knew I could write articles. Didn't know how to do it. So when the SEO and affiliate marketing stuff came up, I kind of had to get an idea. But I just did it. And that's my advice, is that just go ahead and get a job. Get a job writing, and you'll learn how to do what it is that you want to do. The other reason I share this story is because I identify with that guy in the gym, the guy who's hanging his head in his hands. I've been there, man. I've been there. I've been miserable. I've let things at work get to me and brought them home, and not been the person that I wanted to be or the man that I wanted to be. And although, like, I'm at that point I was this hero, supposedly, it's just, I didn't feel that way. And it takes a special type of person to do that job for a really long time, and it wasn't for me. I couldn't do it. It probably would have killed me. So I just wanted to share that. I just want to, I was never a writer. Somebody asked me the other day if I worked with clients before I became a writer. How do you work for clients before you become a writer? I don't know if they understood what they were asking, but no, like, once I was a writer once I had a client. All right, but it is what it is. And I know this isn't like the normal content that I would put out, and I don't even know what value it brings you. But if you want to know how I became a writer, that's the story. And I'll put out some more regular content. I just wanted to kind of get vulnerable and explain where I came from and how it all worked out for me, and how it was the best decision I ever made, because I'd probably be dead if I didn't. And I guess that's about it. Do me a favor though, like, I'm not gonna do a lot of this. I know that, like, there's a push for, like, lifestyle brands and stuff where you really get an insight into the influencer's life. I'm not gonna probably do that much, but what I'll say is that I'm gonna, if you ask questions, I'll answer them. But I will go back to doing my regular content. I have more stuff I want to write and record over the next couple of weeks. So if you found me at all interesting and what I do at all interesting, hit the follow button and the subscribe button and whatever else. And I'll put out more content over the next couple of weeks that will help you become a writer. But what I'm telling you is you don't need me to do it. You can start right now. I can make you better. I can help you understand how it works. I can give you some insight, but literally all you have to do is convince somebody to exchange money for you to write, and you'll get there. All right, guys. So I hope this helps. That's about it, man. And I appreciate you guys listening to me ramble on about, my past life. All right. Take care.